welcome everybody to this celebration on 30 years of EU citizens' rights. Now, we're live here in the Orange Studio in Brussels, and we're very excited to have you with us today. So, whichever European country that you're tuning in from, thank you so much for being here, and a big warm welcome to you.
Yeah, it's really great to be here. My name is Jochem Jordaan and this is Hajar Yacoubi.
Yes, and we're both from the Dutch youth initiative, the Kiesmannen, and we will guide you through the show tonight.
Yeah, because tonight we're celebrating the first 30 years of EU citizenship rights. But what are our rights actually and how can we benefit from them? And maybe most importantly, how do we approach the next decades of EU citizenship?
Yes, a lot to discuss, but luckily we won't be discussing that alone.
No, we won't.
No, because we have a stellar lineup of speakers in petto for you tonight, folks. Stay tuned. We have a French experts on EU citizenship rights. We have a documentary maker from Greece. And last but definitely not least, we also have the director on rule of law, fundamental rights and democracy, Mr. Julien Monsieur, later on in the program with us today.
So this is going to be a very exciting hour, but maybe it's good to have some house rules before we start off. There will be German and French interpretation available via the event webpage of the Commission, commission.europa.eu.
Yeah. And during the show, people don't just have to sit back and listen, right, Jochem?
No, definitely not. You can participate. And actually, we would love to hear your comments, your questions via the Facebook comment section, via the YouTube comment section, or the comment section via the Commission website, in which Slido will be embedded. And you can use the hashtag, the entry code for the Slido, hashtag 30 years citizenship.
And now this is an important element, folks. Do make sure that you note that down, because tonight is not just about EU citizenship rights, it's about quizzes, speakers, but also prizes are there to be won through our online quiz of tonight.
And now, who doesn't like prizes, right?
Well, I love them. I know that you love them, Jochem, and I'm sure that you will all love them, but you will most particularly love the prize that we have in store for you tonight, because by the end of the show, one of you will walk away from this session with their own interrail pass if you're able to pass our quiz. So I would say get ready in gear, folks, because this is, if you would ask me, a great prize to be won. Jochem?
But there's even more, Hajar. There's even more. Not just an interrail pass, but there is also the two most successful participants under the age of 30 who will be winning the quiz. They will get the prize to the kickoff event of the European Youth Week, which will take place on the 12th of April 2024. And both your accommodation and your transport to this kickoff event will be paid for. So in short, there's a lot to win.
Yeah, and now to those of you that are at this point panicking and are like, where is the link? I didn't see it and I want to win these prizes. Don't worry, we got you. Just go to the link that you can see in the chat on Facebook and on YouTube. And if you're on the website of the Commission, then Slido should be embedded in the system. So right there for you to see.
Yeah, and maybe a few more last rules on this quiz that you can participate in. If several participants have reached the same score, well, then it means that the one with the closest score in the last question will win the prize. The winner will be informed by email the latest on the 12th of December. And lastly, you will need to stay until the end of the show to hear all the clues, because Hajar and I will be giving clues throughout the show in order for you to answer the questions properly.
Okay, and I would say let's hop right into that, Jochem. I don't know about you, but I'm getting nervous and we can't even win the prize. So can't imagine how you must be feeling. But we have a short video in store for you just to give you a general sense of an idea of what those EU citizenship right knowledge is doing right here in the continent. So I would say let's take a look at that.
What do you know about your European citizenship rights?
I don't know anything, I guess.
Do you know anything about EU citizenship rights? No. Today we are in Amsterdam, and as a Dutchie I like techno music, stroopwafels and riding a bicycle. But okay, enough with the stereotypes. Because besides being Dutch, I'm also European. But what does it mean to have European citizenship? What rights do you have? Let's check it out. Hi guys, where are you from?
From the Netherlands. Here, Amsterdam.
From Spain.
I'm from Hungary.
What do you know about your rights as an EU citizen? Can you write one down for me? Movement of people.
Museums.
Free museums. It's not an EU right. No. Maybe not everyone knew too much about their rights as an EU citizen. But let me start by telling you this. If you are a national citizen of one of the 27 EU member states, you automatically have European citizenship. And with that comes 7 rights. The right to travel to and live and work in a different EU country and be treated the same way as nationals there. The right to vote and stand as a political candidate for both the local and European elections. The right to a citizens' initiative. If you can gather 1 million signatures from all over the EU, you can put something on the political agenda of the European Commission. These are the 3 most well-known EU citizenship rights, but there's 4 more you should also know about. The right to non-discrimination on the basis of your nationality. The right to consular protection when traveling outside the EU. The right to make petitions to the European Parliament and to make complaints to the European Ombudsman. The right to contact and receive a response from any EU institution in any of the 24 European languages. True or false? An EU citizen cannot live longer than 5 years in another EU country.
False.
False.
Is also right. No, yeah.
It's false.
Indeed, that's false. You can just live as long as you want in a different EU country. A Dutch person can be mayor of a Danish town.
Yeah, I think that's a yes.
False, I think yes. False. True.
Again, correct. A Greek student in Finland can vote for the European elections. False.
I'm gonna say false.
I think it's true. True.
False.
True.
That's indeed true. So, I now hope that you know what your rights are. Voting for the European elections in 2024, starting your own European Citizens Initiative, working in Dublin, studying in Bratislava. As a European citizen, it's all possible. Back to the studio.
In Belgium, in Luxembourg, but also in France, in Italy, and in Germany. In short, this was the introduction of the European coal and steel community.
Yeah, and then if we go a bit further into the future, we go to 1957, and you see these 2 people, icons, if you will, because in 1957 we saw that American sort of pop culture was widespread in Western countries, so icons like Elvis Presley, Marilyn Monroe were mainstream and could be seen and heard everywhere.
Wait, Hajar, aren't we way too young to know them?
Well, Jochem, if you don't know them, you should definitely ask your parents because these were big shots back in the days. But in this same year, it is also the year that these 6 sort of founding members grant the right of free movement to all workers, self-employed citizens and their families across these countries. So over the years, this European economic community was expanding and welcoming new members and countries as well. Nowadays, as Dylan also said in the video, we have 27 EU member states, with the latest addition being Croatia.
Well, now let's move to my favorite date. And even though I wasn't born yet, 1979, this was the year that the Swedish band ABBA released its world-famous album Give Me, Give Me, Give Me. But at the same time, the European citizens also gained citizens' rights to vote for the European Parliament elections.
Oh, so it's a little bit like gimme, gimme, gimme EU voting right.
Give me, give me, give me EU voting rights. This is perhaps the worst joke I've heard so far, but indeed, this is the case.
Okay, moving up, then I will refrain from singing any ABBA songs further.
I think so.
Because if we go to 1990, let's quickly move on, then we find ourselves in around the period that Eurodance was established as a genre in Europe. So this is a form of electronic dance music, not like the one that we know today, but it's definitely around the time that the band No Limit released their hit songs to Unlimited. And it's also at this same time that the EU established more citizenship rights through the Maastricht Treaty. So now citizens have a whole list of specific EU citizenship rights beyond the original right of free movement for economic activity that people could engage in.
Then we are moving to the 2000s, because in 2009, this was the year that Britney Spears introduced the low-waist jeans. I believe this trend is re-emerging, Hajar, isn't it?
Yeah, I sort of considered wearing one today, but then I went with my outfit that I have.
Yeah, all good. But 2009 was also the year everyone was wearing Britney Spears low-waist jeans, but the EU Charter of Fundamental Rights came into force, further reinforcing EU citizens' rights.
Yeah. And now, if we go to this next year, I want to do a short disclaimer. Please, to all Italians, close your eyes, close off your ears, look away, because we're going to 2012, and everyone knows what happened in 2012. It is the year that Spain beats Italy in the European Championship 4-0. 2012, everyone remembers. But what people also must remember about this year is that a new EU citizenship right was added, which gave EU citizens a way more stronger voice when it comes into them partaking in the policy-making process, so to say. And this was through the European Citizens Initiative.
And then 2020, a little bit of Dutch pride, because the Netherlands won finally the Eurovision Song Festival with Duncan Lawrence with the song Arcade. But what else happened in 2020? Well, the Conference on the Future of Europe, the biggest participatory exercise in the history of the European Union, where citizens asked, among other things, for more information on EU citizenship.
Yeah. And now we find ourselves in 2023, folks, with Jochem and me right here in the studio, live from Brussels, celebrating 30 years of EU citizenship rights. So in a way, it's actually a very young project when you come to think about it.
It's really interesting to see, indeed, that those citizen rights have not always existed, but only exist for about 30 years.
Yeah. And I mean, we did see Dylan just now in the video, right, Jochem, explaining a little bit more about those EU citizenship rights, questioning people, but I'm actually, it's got me a little curious. Did you pay attention to the video?
Of course, I was watching. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you sound very convincing.
Uh-huh.
Less and less so with every minute. So I think it's only fair that I then quiz you, right, Jochem? So I'm curious to hear from you. Can you name the EU citizenship rights for me?
So the EU citizenship rights, well, I know it's 7.
Yeah.
So one of them we heard is the right to reside and travel in another EU country as an EU national.
There
right?
you go.
The right to vote and stand as a candidate for both municipal and European Parliament elections in any EU country. And the right to participate in a citizens' initiative. And I would have to look at my notes. It's the request signed by at least 1 million EU citizens inviting the European Commission to propose a new policy measure.
Okay, so 1 million. But
That's three.
That's 3. We have 7. Come on, Jochem.
You got to help me on the 4th and the 7th and the 6th.
Don't worry, I got you. So the other one that we have is the right to non-discrimination on the basis of nationality. I definitely don't have a cheat sheet right here, but you also have the right to consular protection and the right to make petitions to the European Parliament or to the European Ombudsman to send him your complaints, for example. And finally, we have the final and 7th right, and that is the right to contact and receive a response from any EU institution in one of the EU's official languages. Now, there are 24 languages in total, so enough linguistic knowledge present for you to exercise your rights on. Now, before we move on to our next guest, I just want to remind you of the following. The quiz is up and running, so make sure that you participate. Go check out that link and fill in your answers. You can do so throughout today. And with that being said, I would say, let's get ready.
Let's get ready for our very first guest of the night. Why was the introduction of EU citizens' rights so important? Well, this we will be discussing with Claire Morosir, the EU rights manager at the European Citizens Action Center service, I must say. Welcome, Claire. It's really great to have you here.
Thank you.
Now, Jochem, there is something very exciting that we have in store for you, Claire. Maybe you've already seen it. Maybe the people at home were wondering, well, what is this amazing prop that I have here right next to me? Well, folks, it's the Wheel of Europe. So throughout tonight, all our guests get to do a little spin on the wheel. As you can see, all 7 of the EU citizenship rights are included on the wheel, but they all correspond to a specific question that we would then have in store. So Claire, I would say you have the honor of giving this wheel the first spin of the evening. So I would say spin away, and then we'll see what comes out of it.
Okay, let's see.
Okay, I see speak up. Jochem.
Speak up.
Speak up.
What
Okay,
is
the speak up right. Well, this refers to the following question. The European elections are next year. What do you, Claire, think is an important issue for young Europeans that should be addressed by the European Union?
I would say climate change. Because it will have an impact for young people for a very long time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
It's-
definitely, a generational element that you think should be brought to the table there.
I think so.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, we're going to talk with you about the historical importance of EU citizenship rights. And the first question, because we learned all of these rights actually right now, we mentioned all 7 of them, but why was the introduction of EU citizenship rights even important?
Well, back then, what happened is that whenever you are a citizen of a country which belongs to the EU, automatically you will become an EU citizen. So then you would gain all the rights that you have listed and explained just now.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, what changed the most is not the rights themselves, because some of them already existed. This was more for confirmation, let's say.
Yeah.
But it's more the way people perceive the EU. You know, it makes me feel a little bit like a family. You're part of your nuclear family. It's very obvious. You have your parents and your sibling, but you're also part of an extended family, which is also important with your cousins, your grandparents, and so on. And with the introduction of EU citizenship, people started realizing that they were part of this bigger family. And they started perceiving other EU citizens more as neighbors or as fellow EU citizens and no longer as foreigners. And I think this was extremely important. And there is also one thing that young people don't know about, but which was really revolutionary back then, and is a direct consequence of freedom of movement that we just spoke about. It was the abolition of border controls.
Right.
Because I remember myself being a very small child, and whenever in the summer with my parents we would go from France to Spain, we had to spend hours in the car at the border.
Yeah.
We had to queue. I was a child, so I was bored, you know.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, where people were able to travel freely without any checks from one country to another, it gave them such a great feeling of freedom that they had not felt before.
So how would you say that the introduction of citizenship rights changed the relationship between the EU and its citizens? Because you said some rights were already there. How did it change the relationship between the institutions and the citizens?
I think it gave more legitimacy to the institutions because it was really clearly written what sort of political rights people have, meaning that they feel empowered, of course, but also citizens realized that they had a clear role to play, that, you know, they have their words to say, they need to get involved in the EU political landscape, and I think it changed the relationship a lot.
Hey, Claire, you talk a lot about this notion and this sense of being European. I mean, you elaborated and expressed it yourself, being a child on a back seat and then all of a sudden moving and traveling freely. How would you say that EU citizenship further on contributes to this sense of being European? Could you elaborate on that a little bit, and maybe also what you think the importance is of that?
Yes, sure. I think the importance is that indeed if you have these political rights, and it's not limited to voting for MEPs, as it was just mentioned, it's also the municipal elections. It's very important to know that wherever you are. Yes, I mean myself, I'm French, I live in Belgium, but I'm allowed to vote for the municipal elections here, which is great because everything that is linked to transportation, to recycling and so on, it's decided at the local level. So I think the political rights are extremely important in that sense. and really give the feeling that you have a role to play and you belong to something bigger. It's not only at the local level, it's also national and it's also at the European level, and you share these rights with other people.
Yeah.
But the feeling of belonging is also very closely linked to freedom of movement.
Sorry, I'm curious because it's beautiful in a way what you're saying. It's such a cohesive thing that is happening, and this feeling of belonging. How do we make sure that we foster that also going into this next 30 years of EU citizenship rights? What can we do to, foster an environment where people feel this sense of being European?
Well, I think we need to communicate more, explain to people what they can benefit from, because it's also a good opportunity. It really broadens your horizon to be for example, to study abroad, to volunteer abroad, or just to spend 3 months in a country because you want to learn the language, or just because it's sunny, for whatever reason. But it's important to reinforce that message that we're extremely lucky to benefit from this freedom of movement. We don't need to worry about visa, work permit, residence permit. We can just go there and stay. And this is something that we should be very grateful for.
I think a lot of our friends, also friends of Hajar and I, they don't often realize that the rights that we are enjoying in Europe, that they are actually quite special. Can you maybe tell us something about that? How are the citizens' rights that we have in Europe, how are they compared to other parts of the world?
Well, we cannot compare because they are unique.
Oh, wow. That settles it.
EU citizenship as it is, it doesn't exist anywhere else in the world. And having the opportunity to keep your identity, to keep your traditions, while being given extra rights that come thanks to the fact that you have this supranational citizenship, it's still extremely innovative. Even if EU citizenship is 30 years old, it's still innovative because nobody has copied us yet. So it's a good question that you're asking because, as you said, some young people don't realize it. And it makes me think about something I have very strongly perceived after Brexit, is that a lot of young British citizens didn't realize that they had unfortunately lost their EU citizenship. And all of a sudden, if they had family or friends in the EU, they had to be extremely careful because they had to start counting the days they were allowed to spend in the EU.
Right, because it was limited at that point.
It was limited,
Yeah,
exactly. It became limited.
But you're actually touching upon an essential point there, right? Because how can we then make sure that we better engage young people sort of like as young citizens on an EU level, have them know what's going on? What would your advice be?
I think there's a lot of youth initiatives ongoing. So I would strongly encourage young people to take a look at what's going on. Initiatives are absolutely everywhere, not only for EU mobile citizens, but also for what we call static citizens. So people who like to stay where they are. So yes, I would strongly encourage young people to get more involved and to look around and see what's happening.
Yeah, hey, and when we look at the timing that we find ourselves in, we also have the European elections that are upcoming. We have young people. What is like the importance of voting, and do you have a message for them? Because I think there's a lot to be said there when it comes to engagement as well, right?
Yes, that's correct. I would strongly encourage young people to vote. The elections, as you said, are going to happen soon, so it will be in June. In case some young people are afraid to forget, don't worry, because you can always go to the website of the European Parliament. They send you a reminder.
Okay, cool.
And this year is very specific because for the very first time, young people as from the age of 16 in some member states, which are, I believe, Greece, Malta, Austria and Belgium, will be allowed to vote. So please do so, take this opportunity. It's very important to get engaged with the current political context, geopolitical context as well, because of climate change, with the current energy crisis as well. Young people have their words to say. And I believe it's really crucial that they get involved because, of course, having a high participation from young people is really the key to a healthy democracy.
Okay, well, we're certainly going to do our best in June. June, I think first or second week of June, these elections will take place. Now, let's move to the audience and see whether we have received a question. I can see it here on the screen. Claire, can you please explain the difference between freedom of movement and Schengen? Because not all EU countries are part of the Schengen area, right?
This is correct. Not all EU countries are part of the Schengen area. There are 4 countries which are Ireland, Bulgaria, Romania, and Cyprus, which are not part of Schengen. But yet they do benefit from freedom of movement. So it doesn't really make a difference for the citizens, meaning that, for example, if I'm a young Bulgarian and I want to study in France, I can do so. And the other way around, if I'm Spanish and I want to go to Romania to work there, I don't need a work permit.
Yeah.
So even the ones not part of Schengen do still all enjoy all 7 citizenship rights?
Yes, that's absolutely correct.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for your question.
Yeah, and also because that's actually interesting. I also have friends of mine, and they don't feel the need to travel abroad, and they're like, I want to stay. So in what way do they benefit from the sort of EU citizenship rights? Do they, or how do you sort of like perceive that?
They do, because they still have political rights, which are extremely important, because of course EU decisions have an impact on your everyday life.
Yeah.
But also, you know, for people who have no interest in residing abroad, they can still travel.
Yeah.
And if, you know, for example, you're Dutch, you live in Amsterdam, you're a young student, you really love your city because it's a beautiful city, but your best friend decides to move to Malta, you know, you can visit your best friend anytime you want. You don't need a passport, an ID is sufficient, you don't need to worry about changing currency, and you can even call your parents when you get there thanks to roaming.
True.
Isn't that great?
Honestly, you just summed it up perfectly, Claire. And maybe even to add to that, there's of course also the element what you say, the people that do choose to reside in different countries, then you have like the diversity around you, even if you decide to stay, that is also enabled through there. I also want to say to the people online watching, thank you for sending in those questions. Please make sure that you send in some more. You can do so via the live chat, and then we'll try our best to pose as many of those as possible.
For now, thank you so much for this conversation. This was a really great and helpful start of this talk show. So thank you so much, and hopefully see you soon.
Yeah, and I think it's time that we go over to our second speaker. Thank you so much. Okay, and there we are again, folks. And now we're joined by a new guest here on my left side. We're joined by Angeliki Aristomenopoulou. Very nice to have you here. Very warm welcome to you. You are the director of Citizen Europe, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, a documentary maker as well. But before we do, I want to turn to our audience, because a lot of young Europeans, and perhaps you out there watching as well, have traveled, worked, or volunteered abroad. And if you've done so, then you've most certainly made use of one of your EU citizenship rights, which is the right to reside in another country. Now, Angelika talks about this in her documentary, Citizen Europe, in which she follows 5 young people while they go through the journey actually of their Erasmus programs throughout Europe, working, volunteering, and studying abroad. And we actually have a short clip that we're going to start with, so let's take a look at that.
Το 1993 μου δόθηκε ευκαιρία να έρθω στη Βαρκελόνη για 9 μήνες. Πολλοί κόσμος έκανε το Εράσμους ως εμπειρία. Πάω, διασκεδάζω, γνωρίζω μια καινούργια χώρα και επιστρέφω. Εγώ ήμουνα πάρα πολύ πεπισμένος ότι η ευκαιρία του Εράσμους ήταν σαν ένα καινούριο εισιτήριο για μια καινούργια ζωή.
That's so cool. Beautiful imagery, by the way. We talked a bit before.
It's archival footage from the 80s.
Oh,
so,
wow,
yeah,
from the
it's
80s,
beautiful.
so some time ago. Wow, honestly. I wasn't even born then, but it just makes me nostalgic for some reason.
Yeah, it's the train also.
Yeah.
Right? People used to travel by train
Absolutely. Angeliki, we just saw in a video that it said 9 million people that made use of the Erasmus program. By now, we even have 13 million students that made use of Erasmus. So it's on the increase, the numbers that we see.
And maybe as a way of introduction, we just did that with Claire, but it would be really fun to do that with you as well. The wheel of Europe.
Okay,
are you ready to turn it?
Give it a big spin and it votes.
Okay.
Ooh. What is the question, Jochem?
The voting. So we have a question for you, introductory question. Of which European city would you like to be the mayor? And what would be the first thing you would do as a mayor?
Oh, that's a fun
God.
one.
I would like to be the mayor of Ireland.
Oh,
Of
and
Ireland.
what city in Ireland?
I'm just saying, I'm just picking up.
Of Dublin. Of
Dublin?
Dublin.
Of Dublin. Oh yeah,
Or-
of course.
or-
Yeah, it is a
or
city, not
Tyrone.
country.
Yeah.
Of Dublin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what
The
would be the first
mayor.
thing? Yeah.
But why
I-
Dublin? Why?
Because I like.
The cold?
I like. Maybe it would be Limerick or not. But anyways,
no, I like
let's say
that.
Dublin.
Yeah.
I like the Irish. I like the
accent.
you know the Irish traditions and music and the fact that this country, you know, it's a beautiful isolated country.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know what I would do in Dublin as a mayor.
Yeah.
Maybe
I
get the
would-
Greek weather.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
That would
Bring
be
the
possible.
Greek weather in Dublin.
Yeah, but I like that. I would also like a mayor that
Offer
just is
free Guinness to
Free Guinness to
make
everyone.
the day of Guinness.
Okay,
but
I
I think it already exists.
enough plans here on Angelica's side. Moving
sorry.
on. No, I love that. And I also like a mayor that just has appreciation for the place before they have plans. That's also super nice to see. But Angelica, we just already saw a short snippet from the documentary. Can you maybe just briefly
Yes.
talk us through what is the documentary about?
So the documentary captures the lives of 5 different groups of young European citizens who are participating in an Erasmus program. We have a story of 2 French boys who traveled to Lithuania to work at a technical Erasmus, to work at a welding factory. Then we have 2 German girls who do volunteer Erasmus at the refugee camp in the north of Greece, at the Yazidi refugee camp, teaching the kids languages, German and English. And we have another story of this Bulgarian medical student who goes to France to work and train at a hospital, a cardiosurgeon's hospital in Bordeaux.
And when was all of this? When did you film this?
It was all filmed during a period of a year in 2018.
Okay, so some years ago. Hey, and when you mention this, it's all incredible stories of young people that are out and about and they're learning new things. What was it like for you also to follow their journey and to go through this entire journey of making this documentary?
Yeah, it was a very beautiful experience and very enriching because in parallel with the kids who were traveling, with these young people, they're not kids, I also had the opportunity, because this film was a co-production, it was made because of the power of Europe again and the co-productions. It's a co-production between 5 or 6 different countries: France, Germany, Bulgaria, Greece, Ireland.
Wow.
So I had the opportunity to collaborate and work with people from the film industry from all these different countries. So it was really beautiful. I learned a lot of different ways of how people work.
Did you encounter language barriers when working with so many people from so many different countries?
If I encountered language,
Language barriers, did you speak English or how did
I
you?
think that English has become the common language.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I'm wondering, what was the moment that you decided, I want to make this documentary and I want to follow those young people on their journey through Europe?
Yeah, I actually decided to do this film because I believe that the Erasmus concept is one of the most successful ideas that the European Union has offered. And I really wanted to narrate through these stories, in parallel to these stories, not to narrate, to mention the issues that the main issues that the European crisis was facing, at the time, like the brain drain from the poorer to the more privileged countries, the refugee crisis, or the rise of populism. Brexit was a very important issue at the time. So, I chose the stories that were a bit related to all this.
Yeah, because you followed these youngsters on their journey, and I watched a part of your documentary where I noticed that you really portrait their challenges, their obstacles on going on this exchange, but also you're following them in their happy moments and in their successful moments. Let's have a short look at a part of your documentary in which we follow one particular youngster.
Този обмен Еразъм, този стаж тук в тази болница, мисля, че би ми бил един плюс за бъдещата ми кариера, тъй като свикваш да работиш с различни хора, да виждаш всеки ден различни болни. Целта ми е да стана някой ден.
Okay, maybe turning to you first, Angeliki, can you help us out a bit? Who did we see here? What's going on?
Yeah, this is Sezgin.
Okay.
She's a Bulgarian medical student. She lives in Varna. And she's at the last year of her studies, and she has the opportunity to travel to this great cardiosurgeon's hospital in France, in Bordeaux. We see her working next to a great team, you know, of cardiosurgeons doing an open heart surgery, and yeah. And actually training and learning new skills, practical skills.
Yeah.
And you followed her on her journey. What challenges did she face?
The main challenge that Sezgin faces after this experience and during this experience is the fact that what is she going to do? Is she going to stay in her country and work at a hospital in Varna that it's in great need of good doctors and surgeons, or she's going to choose a better career, an easier environment, better salary in France, for example, because you know this is the brain drain issue that I was talking before. That we have all these people from the poorer countries of Europe moving to wealthier countries because they are offered a better.
And how would you say
so that's her challenge?
After her journey, how did she benefit from it?
She benefits because she has the opportunity to learn new practical skills on her field.
Yeah.
Right.
And also gain technical knowledge, using equipment and the latest technological
Advancements.
discoveries in medicine. So all this is very beneficial for her.
Yeah, but you really showcase the richness of such an experience. So much happens and so much insights and things that you weigh happen in that year. And there's a bit in the documentary which I really liked. I think it really showcases the dynamic of such a rich year like that, in which we see Sezgin have a bit of a reflection on her entire Erasmus experience so far. We have a short clip, so let's take a look at that.
Аз по същия начин. Искам да остана тук, но вече според обстоятелствата. Но все пак...
Ама мислиш да оставиш тук за чужбина нещо?
Ами ако мога да остана тук, ще остана тук. Защото със семейството и така, мисля, че по-добрият вариант е да остана тук за мен. Но вече в крайна случай, ако не се получат нещата и ако се развия малко повече в езика, бих заминала.
Yeah, really great to see this footage. This was one example, but again, you follow people on their way to Lithuania, to Germany, to Greece. What did you learn as a documentary maker from Athens? What did you learn after the experience of following all these people?
What did I learn? I found again that the beauty of the freedom to move. It's so transformative, to be able to move, the mobility and the diversity that Europe has, the beauty of the diversity, different languages, different foods, different scenery, different architecture, it's so rich, different religions. So, I mean, I learned that that it's very important to be able to do that, you know.
And when you say transformative, in what way was it transformative?
Transformative and enriching, you know, it opens up your mind, I think. You're more open to the world. And you become less racist, because you meet and you integrate with people from different socioeconomical backgrounds, cultures.
You have a better understanding of
religions.
Yeah. Would you say that is more needed nowadays, or when you look at this sort of like time frame that we find ourselves in? What is the potential of storytelling in the way in which you did it? And in a way, if I hear you, it almost sounds like the Erasmus program is also a form of storytelling because it showcases different places and different people, and that gives insights. Like, is it more relevant? Do you think we're at an okay point? How do you sort of look at that?
It has always been a very relevant issue. I mean, through the years, if you see the history of the European Union, it's always very important to remember that. And right now we see, you know, like Holland right now just got a very extreme prime minister, which is always, you know, it's always important to talk about these issues, always relevant.
I see we have a question from the audience.
Oh yeah. Please keep on sending.
Please keep on sending in your questions so we can answer them live here in the studio. A question for Angeliki: what was a highlight for you during the production of your documentary? Some like a personal highlight or some moment that you still remember?
A highlight. I hate these questions. I think that the highlight for me was the ability to collaborate, you know, with all these people from different countries in my field. This was really enriching. And
are you still in touch with some of them?
Yes.
Yeah.
I am.
How are they doing?
They're good. Actually, I worked in Ireland. We got the film fund if you're a women's crew, because I was a female director. I chose to work with female, you know, sound artist and DOP, director of photography. So we got more fun. You know, you get 20% more. And this crew was really beautiful to have a women's crew in Ireland. So they were dressing up after the shoots, and it was really beautiful.
So they stayed friends actually.
We're really good friends.
Yeah.
And,
well, that's great to hear. I mean, that's I think something also that should be aimed at, right? When traveling and working with other Europeans. I think we have a final clip we want to show, right?
We do. We have a final short clip from the documentary. So I would say we won't keep you in suspense and we'll head right over.
L'esperimento europeo in questo senso è interessante, perché pone l'accento sull'individuo, sull'appunto desiderio, attraversare confini e di farsi contaminare e di rimodellare la propria identità.
Yeah, I think that beautifully sums up what the main message is of the documentary, right? Yeah. Well, I would say thank you so much, Angeliki. It was so lovely to have you here.
Thank you for inviting me.
Honestly, our pleasure. I'm very excited to have had you here. I think Jurgen as well. And also very excited to go over to our next guest.
All right.
Okay. We're back again, and as you can see, we have a new guest here with us, a very special guest to close this night off with, this talk show on 30 years of EU citizenship rights. I would say welcome to Julienne Monnier. You're the director on Rule of Law, Fundamental Rights and Democracy. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. I like it when you call me very special guest.
We do that. Don't tell them, Jochem, but we say that to everyone. I'm just kidding.
Oh my God.
No, we're very happy to have you here because this is like the real banger that we want to have for the ending of the show.
Yeah, and with you we will reflect on the current agenda of EU citizenship rights and also its future challenges.
Yes, but we won't be doing that alone because we have received 2 recorded questions from one of the young people that we have here in Europe that wanted to ask questions to Mr. Monnier. So very excited to see that. But before we head over to that, Mr. Monnier, if I can direct it to you. I mean, I mentioned it already. It's 30 years of EU citizenship rights. Why would you say that it's so important that we come together to celebrate that?
I would say, I mean, every birthday is special, but
Yeah.
this one is extra special, if I can put it like that, because 30 years ago, I mean, for me, it's also an important birthday. I was 20 years at that time.
Yeah.
We got extra rights. So we were not any longer just citizens of a member states, but we became also European Union citizens. And that came with all kinds of rights that were not existing before, that would allow you to travel, to live, to study, not having to have visa, not having to have working permits. And that was really, for me at that time, a sense of great freedom, of really great opportunities opening.
Yeah.
And it was very nice to see also from the previous speaker where they were sharing their personal experience and also how great it has been for them. So here it is really, really important that the young people know about these rights, know about also the political rights that come with EU citizenship, the facilitation for voting when you are abroad. And so that for me is definitely a great source of celebration.
Yeah.
Yeah, because one of the things that we were thinking, because these rights, a lot of these rights were established already 30 years ago. This was before we were even born. But I can imagine that you at the European Commission haven't stopped building or further developing citizens' rights. Is there one particular recent achievement by the European Commission that you perhaps could share with us?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think all of us, even the younger one, unfortunately for them, may remember the COVID moment, the lockdowns, the border restrictions, the restrictions to movement. And that's where I think for a lot of people, they realized also how important it was to have all these rights that are attached to the EU citizenship. And what we've done here at the European Commission with the EU digital COVID certificate was precisely to put something in place that would harmonize the kind of certificates that member states would use so we could resume traveling, we could resume moving. So that's the kind of achievements.
Yeah.
And there are many others, of course.
Yeah, but that's definitely an example that I'm sure won't be forgotten, of course, the implications.
And we also experienced it ourselves in COVID,
yeah,
of course.
Indeed. Yeah, definitely. Now, Mr. Monnier, we already mentioned that we received videos also from young people across the continent that had some questions that they wanted to pose to you. And I'd say maybe we can hop right into a first one because we have a question that was sent in by Debbie Carvalho. So I would say let's take a look to what Debbie has to say.
Hi everyone, my name is Debbie Carvalho. I am 26 years old and I'm German and Portuguese. Currently, I'm doing my Master's in European Studies in Maastricht, and I really love and enjoy living and studying abroad. It is super cool to be able to learn about a new culture, to learn a new language, and to study in an international environment. My question is related to the 2020 EU Citizenship Report, where the Commission wanted to improve the legal certainty of EU citizens who move, travel, or study in another EU member state. So what exactly does the Commission mean by legal certainty? And what issues has the Commission encountered in this regard? It would also be interesting to know what exactly has been achieved within the last 3 years. Thank you so much for considering and answering my question, and have a good rest of the show. Bye.
Well, thank you so much, Debbie. That is too kind. And thank you so much also for sending in that question. So the legal certainty for EU citizens to work abroad, travel abroad, what are the challenges in this regard, but also what is going to happen and has been achieved in the last 3 years?
Yeah, I mean, in this respect, legal certainty is essential. I mean, you, me, anyone also in this show tonight, if you want to move, if you want to change your life, to go to study abroad, to bring your family or anything like that, you want certainty. You don't want to do that on a basis which is unclear.
Yeah.
And here, fortunately, the rules are very clear. They are very accessible, I would say. But it's still good to put them in, I would say, a single repository. And here the citizenship report is extremely helpful for that. So that's something which is quite compact. The good news is that there would be the next edition next week. So I would certainly encourage you to read it. It might sound dry, but it's not.
Okay.
There are lots of concrete situations. It's also something that we do together, and it will come also next week, which is guidance on free movement, because of course most of it is quite straightforward, but there are some special situations that can be a bit more complicated. And here it's important that there is guidance also for the member states' authorities on how to apply these rights, guidance also to the national courts, in case they need to intervene, and of course more clarity for the citizens, even in this situation that could be a bit more complex.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I hope it answers your question. And we have a second question, actually, all the way from Portugal, from Vasco, because of course in June there will be Parliament elections, European Parliament elections. We're all looking forward to it, but 2019 was actually a good election in terms of voter turnout. Over 50% of Europeans turned out to vote. However, in Portugal, this was a different situation. Let's have a look.
Hello everyone, my name is Vasco. I'm 28 years old from Lisbon, Portugal, and I'm the founder of Movimento Eu Voto, that means I vote movement in Portuguese. That's basically a social media platform that promotes a more conscious and informed voting for younger generations, totally non-partisan. And my question is regarding elections and voter turnout. In the last European elections in 2019, Portugal's voter turnout was only 31%. This is very shocking numbers, of course. So my question is, what can the European Union can do to stimulate a more active citizenship around all Europeans, but more focused on younger generations? Thank you so much and have a great show.
So thank you, Vasco, for your question. So the question is, what can the European Commission do to stimulate active citizenship, particularly focused towards the European elections and to young people? Yeah.
Absolutely. No, I mean, here, first of all, I would like to thank Vasco for his initiative, because it's brilliant that there's some grassroots movement and activity also to motivate young voters in the member states, in the communities. That's super important. The second thing is, I hope also that this event will have a positive effect on this, so that all of you watching us here will go and vote. I mean, it's something which is excessively important, really. Every vote counts. So please go and vote. There will be also now, as we will slowly go into the campaign and the run-up to the elections, there would be also larger events, larger campaign also that we will organize, the Commission, together with the European Parliament. And we will also, as part of a package of measures that are coming next week, have a guide to EU citizenship that will also include all kinds of information that can be useful for all the voters, but the young one in particular, because for some of them it might be the first time to know what they can do and how they can exert their rights.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we're certainly going to do our best, right?
I mean,
in June?
yeah, for sure. And we also hope that this, of course, adds to that. I like how you said it. I mean, Claire also mentioned it, the importance of the elections right there, and also a very big momentum for young people to show up and do their democratic duty, so to say. But Mr. Magnier, if I hear it like that you're working very hard, all of you and the team at the Commission, on all these different initiatives that pertain to EU citizenship rights. So I thought, to close off this show, I was actually very curious to hear from you. What would you say that the current priorities are with regards to EU citizenship rights at the Commission that you're focusing on?
I think people really have, first of all, to know their rights.
Right.
So they have really to be aware about all the, the great opportunities that are opened up by this EU citizenship. And that's not always the case. I will take a very basic example. I came to this show with a cab.
Right.
And he asked me, what are you doing here? I said, well, I'm going to a show where I will talk about EU citizenship. So what?
What is that?
And the 20 minutes we spent together, I think that's, that was interesting for him. So here I think really that not all of the citizens, and especially the younger ones, are necessarily aware of this right. So they have really they need to be aware of this, and they need also to exercise these rights. So to really see in practice that they have something which is very special. One of the previous speakers said that's unique in Europe, and it definitely is. So I think that's really the most important thing. So here we'll come with this big package on citizenship next week. Some of the measures I presented before: guidance on free movement, citizenship report. And all of this will be, a repository of these rights, so people will know that they exist, and then we will continue also to raise awareness about that in shows like this and in other events.
That's amazing.
That's amazing. Well, unfortunately, this brings us already to the closing of the event.
It does. Now, the quiz remains open for a couple more minutes, so take a last long look at those questions and make sure to fill those in, because we do have amazing prizes, right, Jochem?
We do have amazing prizes. We have, as mentioned, the Interrail Pass. We have 2 tickets to the kickoff of the European Youth Week in 2024 in April. And since we probably will receive many responses, we will get back to you the latest by the 10th of December for the final awards winners.
Yeah. Now, this brings us to the point where we almost part ways, but of course not before we thank everyone. And anyone, of course, everyone and anyone. But first of all, a big thank you to our audience for sending in all your questions, for participating, listening, taking in that information, and for being here with us today. I truly always believe that it underlines the importance of the topic that we're discussing. A big thank you to our speakers, of course, a big thank you to you, Mr. Manier. The organizers, without them, none of this would have been possible. So big shout out to them.
That's
to my lovely co-host Jochem, I would say as well.
It was a pleasure, and once again, thank you so much from wherever you were watching, and please hope to see you next time.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks.